the psychology of attachment, desire, and the people we can't let go. Some people enter your life and leave almost no trace. You talk to them, spend time with them, maybe even share a few memories. Then life moves on. Years later, you barely remember their face. But then there are other people, people who somehow take up residence inside your mind, people you think about while working, while driving, while trying to sleep, people whose names appear in your thoughts without invitation, people you haven't spoken to in months, sometimes years, yet they continue living somewhere inside your head, and no matter how much time passes, you cannot seem to let them go. The strange part is that obsession isn't always connected to love. Sometimes it happens after a breakup, sometimes after rejection, sometimes after a brief interaction that barely lasted a few days. Occasionally, the person we're obsessed with isn't even someone we know very well, and that's what makes the experience so confusing. Because logic says it shouldn't matter this much, yet emotions tell a completely different story. You try distracting yourself. You stay busy. You meet new people. You focus on work. You focus on life. And still, somehow, the same person returns to your thoughts again and again. At some point, the question becomes impossible to ignore. Why? Why do certain people affect us so deeply while others disappear from memory almost immediately? What makes one person unforgettable while another becomes a forgotten chapter? And perhaps more importantly, why does the human mind sometimes become obsessed with people it cannot have? The answer begins with a truth most people never realize. Human beings do not become attached to people. They become attached to meanings. When someone enters your life, your brain doesn't simply see a person. It creates a story, a possibility, a future, a set of emotions connected to that individual. The person becomes larger than themselves. They become a symbol of love, acceptance, validation, hope, adventure, security, or sometimes rescue. And once that happens, losing the person no longer feels like losing a person. It feels like losing everything they represented. This is why obsession can become so powerful. Because often, we aren't chasing the individual. We're chasing the feeling they created inside us. Psychologists have long observed that human beings are emotional meaning makers. We constantly assign significance to people and experiences. Most of the time, this process helps us build relationships. But occasionally, it creates something more intense, something closer to fixation. When that happens, the person becomes emotionally magnified. Every interaction gains importance. Every text message becomes meaningful. Every glance becomes significant. Every absence becomes painful. The mind begins treating the individual as if they are uniquely important. And once the brain labels something as uniquely important, it becomes difficult to ignore. Part of this process involves one of the most powerful chemicals in the human brain, dopamine. Many people think dopamine is the pleasure chemical, but that's only part of the story. Dopamine is deeply connected to anticipation, motivation, pursuit, desire, the feeling of wanting. Interestingly, dopamine often becomes strongest not when we receive what we want, but when we are chasing it. This is why uncertainty can intensify obsession. When someone gives mixed signals, when affection appears inconsistent, when attention comes unpredictably, the brain becomes highly engaged. Each interaction feels valuable. Each reward feels significant. The uncertainty itself increases psychological investment. This is one reason why people sometimes become more obsessed with unavailable individuals than available ones. Availability creates certainty. Uncertainty creates pursuit. and pursuit activates powerful motivational systems within the brain. The human mind has always been fascinated by unfinished stories. A movie that ends without resolution stays in your thoughts longer. A mystery without an answer feels impossible to ignore. An unanswered question continues demanding attention. Relationships work in a similar way. Closure allows the mind to relax. Ambiguity keeps the mind searching. This is why rejection often creates obsession, not because rejection proves someone's value, but because rejection creates an unanswered question. What could have happened? And few questions haunt the human mind more than that one. The brain is remarkably uncomfortable with incomplete narratives. It wants resolution. It wants understanding. It wants certainty. When certainty is unavailable, the mind continues returning to the same person in an attempt to solve a problem that may not have a solution. Sometimes obsession has very little to do with the